Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Allianz Partners.
Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday, second Thursday in July for 2022. Coming to you today from New York City. Of course, happy to answer all of your questions as they come in. Of course, you can always email me anyway to peter@petergreenberg.com. We'll answer them also on the radio show, which airs every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on CBS stations and CBS affiliates. If you can't find it in your market, no problem. We also stream it live right on our website, petergreenberg.com, from about 10:05 a.m. Eastern time until 1 p.m. as well. So check that out. Lots of other stuff to talk about in the news, so let's get right to it, and then I'll get to your questions. You survived July 4th, did you? Another Armageddon weekend. We started with Memorial Day, then we had Father's Day weekend, and then, of course, the July 4th weekend. 29% of all flights in America were delayed. JetBlue led the pack with 43% of their schedule delayed. Southwest, 33% of their schedule delayed. United and American coming in at about 30% each. As far as cancellations, Delta led the pack, followed closely by American. And the only thing that saved the airlines from being total Armageddon last weekend was, for once, the weather did not play it a part. It was not a factor. But of course, there are no guarantees that it won't be moving forward. And the DOT, watching this very carefully to see if the airlines are going to be able to account for their schedules, justify them, prove that they actually have the staff to fly a schedule that they post. Now, the DOT has not announced any enforcement action. Let me put things in perspective. You have legislators like Bernie Sanders and other senators calling for legislation and severe fines against the airlines for not telling the truth or for not disclosing what they already know to be the truth before they publish a schedule. The odds of that legislation passing are slim and none. Let's not forget the Airline Deregulation Act back in 1978. States are prohibited from regulating airlines, and most of the federal government is prohibited from regulating airlines. So the answer has to be, if there's an answer at all, in rulemaking from the US DOT. Now, some of you may remember the famous tarmac delay rule from a couple of years ago. We all know why that rule got in. Airlines were pushing back from gates and then stranding passengers, some would say keeping them prisoners for over 3 hours at a time. Under that DOT rule, any airline that pushed back from the gate and did not come back to the gate within 3 hours was liable to a fine of up to $27,500 per passenger. Now, on a 737, we're already talking seven figures. So here's the rhetorical question. How many big tarmac delays have there been since the rule went into effect? Very few. And in no cases did the airlines pay that kind of fine. But the bottom line is it had an effect. It worked. And so the rulemaking may be the answer here on two levels. Level one would be to hold the airlines accountable, to have them justify that if they publish a schedule, they can actually operate the schedule, with fines being consequential in that way if they don't. That's part one. Part two is on the consumer level, providing for realistic and adequate compensation for passengers whose flights have been delayed or canceled. Now, has the DOT done it yet? Nope. Are they considering it? Yes. Will it give you relief this summer? No. Under the way the federal government works, there's a hearing period, a time for people to give comments. We're talking at least 90 days to 120 days before anything gets done. But at least the threat of action or the threat of rulemaking might have some effect in the long run. In the short run, probably not, because the airlines still don't have the staff. You know, you can't go out there and have a guy kick the tires and sit in the left seat and fly the plane tomorrow. He's got to be, or she's got to be trained. And that takes months. And the same thing for the people who work below the wings, the ground handlers, the customer service agents, and the baggage loaders. I mentioned the statistic before. I'll repeat it. Airlines have mishandled 21% more bags this year than last year. Not a good percentage, not a good batting average. Now, let's move over to Europe. And believe it or not, the situation there is actually worse. Let's take a look at some airports. Dublin, both London airports, Copenhagen, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Lisbon. They are a huge, big mess. I reported on my own experiences in Dublin the other day, right? Getting to the airport, thinking I was being smart. Well, I sort of was being smart, but it didn't make much difference. At 3 o'clock in the morning for a 6:30 in the morning flight for an hour to London, it took me 2.5 hours just to get to the plane. Barely missed it. And or barely made it. Either way, I barely. And that situation remains today. In Copenhagen, they've tried to limit the number of people allowed in the terminal at any one point. That hasn't been successful. In London, Gatwick has cut 1,000 flights. They're trying to do the same thing at Heathrow. But last night, here comes a strange one. British Airways announced it was cutting 10,000 flights between now and the end of the summer. That brings the total to 30,000 flights that the airline has canceled since the start of this just a couple of weeks ago. That's huge. But the real poster child for craziness is Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport. First, they tried to get the airlines to cut back on flights. They didn't. Then they tried to limit the number of people allowed in the terminal at any one time. That didn't quite solve the problem. So guess what they've done? They've ordered, this is the government of the Netherlands, they've ordered all airlines to stop selling any more tickets between now and the end of July. Unprecedented, extraordinary, and in the midst of high summer season travel, when was the last time you heard of anybody ordered to stop selling tickets? Well, it's happened. So this is going to be with us at least until September. One other interesting thing about delays and cancellations in Europe. Remember the rulemaking I just talked about with the US DOT? Well, there's actually a rule on the books in Europe. It's called EU Rule 261. And it actually provides for better compensation and more immediate compensation for airline passengers delayed or canceled than we have here in the United States. And it also affects you if you're either flying to or through Europe. You get to benefit that as well. So anytime, if you're in Europe and your flight is either delayed or canceled, you go right to the counter and go EC 261. That's European Community Rule 261. And you may get as much as 600 euros just for being delayed, if not canceled. So check that out. We need something like that in the United States, and we need it now. All right, so that's the story there. A number of you have been writing me, and this has been a long-standing question, which I hope I can answer now, about the GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum. Is it going to open in November? And nobody seems to have an answer. So we dug a little deeper. I thank my assistant Anthony for that. Turns out they are actually on track to have the exhibit start being installed by September 30th, which means right now they're still on schedule to open in November. We'll stay on top of that, but right now they're holding to that date. Let's hope they do. There's that. One more note about frequent flyer mileage. It's getting worse and worse, and it's going to stay that way through the summer. I don't care how many miles you have. Good luck redeeming them. You're not going to be easily done, or at a rate that's even reasonable. The other day, the head of the Delta Airlines frequent flyer program was asked by a journalist, why is it that you're charging 3 times the redemption rate, number of eligible miles, to redeem a ticket for a frequent flyer award than other airlines? And the answer that he got, amazing that we got this answer, was because we can. That's how desperate people are to fly, but however, that's a huge premium to pay. Here's my suggestion and also my prediction. By about September 8th, kids are going to be back in school. People are going to be back at their workplace, or they'll be back working wherever they happen to be. They're going to get their credit card bills, and they're going to say, I paid what for my vacation this summer? I spent how much on travel? And they're going to make a decision at that point to forego all future travel for the rest of 2022, which means that fourth quarter reservations and travel projections are falling off a cliff. And when that happens, you're going to start seeing airfares come down and availability of frequent flyer miles go up. Today is July 7th. Nothing for you to do now, but just prepare for it, plan for it, and sometime next month, maybe after about August 15th, as the airlines look at their forward projections and realize nothing's materializing, you're going to see some movement downwards in terms of airfares and movement upwards in terms of availability of frequent flyer awards, maybe even at lower mileage levels. So watch this space. We will be talking about that. I'm going to give you my trivia question now because it's a tough one today, and anybody who tries to Google it will be punished. Here it is. What does and I'll put it another way. Give me the connection between the number one airport in Chicago and organized crime. Okay? There could be so many answers for that, but there's one big one. Give me the connection between the number one airport in Chicago and organized crime. Let's see how much you can dig and find out. All right, let me scroll up here and start saying hi to everybody. All right, hello to Daryl. Hello to Gildensleeve. Okay, another couple of friends from Tanzania. Priya saying hi from Irvine. Daryl says, are the airlines really paying $10,000 for cancellations and delays? They have the ability to do that. By the way, remember Dr. Dow, the guy who was hauled off that United flight and beaten up, which started all these problems, right? The power of cell phone video. Well, the airlines always have at their disposal, right, the ability to, they can raise the ante to offer you more and more and more to get you to give up your seat if the flight is overbooked. On the Dr. Dow flight, they had that ability as well, but the supervisors running that airline told the guys at the gate no more than $800. He said, I'm not getting up. By the way, he didn't have to get up at all, but they then still hauled him off the plane and beat him up. And so his settlement was 7 figures. But forgetting that issue, it called into focus that every airline has the ability to go as high as $10,000. It's in their own policy books. So I've seen some flights. You're mentioning one that happened at Delta recently, where the airline was so desperate to get people off the flight that they actually paid a couple of people $10,000. Now, does that happen every day? Nope. Will it happen every day? Nope. Could it happen again? Yep. So that's the answer to your question. All right. Here we go. Jackson's saying hi. Sue is saying hello from Bellingham, Washington. Greetings from Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Who said that? Winston Churchill. Okay. Good morning from Denver. Hello, Evelyn. All right. Greetings from Harriet and Jim from Richmond, Virginia. Okay. Here we go. Another greetings from Denver. All right. Our show came from Denver last week, by the way. Okay. Here's Jimmy's question. What are my thoughts on federal hour regulations and tuition in regard to becoming a pilot? It seems like there's a big issue across the country in affordability of becoming a pilot. Well, it's not just the affordability, it's the required number of hours. Currently stands at 1,500. And the reason why it's at 1,500 goes back to February of 2009 and the crash of Colgan Air near Buffalo, New York. That's when we found out that neither the pilot nor the co-pilot had been properly trained. And even though they might have had the right number of hours, their recurrent training, let's call it what it is, sucked. And in fact, the pilot had failed some of his recurrent training and they still let him fly the plane. Obviously, those rules got changed. We're back up to 1,500 hours minimum. And of course, the airlines now are stuck with that and they can't recruit pilots that have those number of hours. So there is a movement to reduce the number of hours. And I understand that because if you reduce the number of hours, you would increase the number of hours of training anyway. But nobody that I know who's a regulator wants to do it on their watch and then have an accident happen because they reduce the number of required hours. So that's not going to change anytime soon. All right. Okay. Deborah, thank you for that nice comment. I'm not going to mention what you said because it'll sound self-serving for me, but thank you. Hello from Kentucky. Hello, Patty. Colleen says, did Patara arrive safely with you all in the U.S. last week, or was he placed with another equally favorable or lovable family? You may remember last week the photo I showed you of the stray dog I found in Patara in Turkey. Sorry to say, I could not get him on the plane, but I have been reasonably informed that he's in loving and caring hands. So hopefully they'll send me a picture soon. But if I could have snuck him out, you know I would have done it. All right, Deborah, thank you for that. Here we go. Okay. Somebody likes the Azores. Me too. And Porto and Lisbon and Madeira. Okay. Oh, they want my favorite restaurants. Well, I'll give you my favorite restaurant in Porto. That's an easy one. And I'll give you my favorite restaurant in Lisbon. That's an easy one. My favorite restaurant in Porto is 1756. I'll even tell you the dish to order. It's the salmon tataki. I guarantee you, if you're a seafood eater, you'll end up ordering two. The last 3 times I've had lunch there, that's exactly what all my guests did as well. Not because I made them do it, they couldn't help themselves. In Lisbon, I got a couple of restaurants: Kipesh, Je ne sais quoi, and Pop Sorda. And you go to Pop Sorda, they have great food, but what you really go for, I'll try to find the picture. We shot one last year, is the dessert. You know, if you order chocolate mousse in any restaurant in the world, it comes in a little tiny champagne glass with a little small spoon. It's sort of a bad tease. You order the chocolate mousse at Pop Sorda, and while you're sitting there, the waiter comes by with a huge empty plate, and you look to your left, and he or she is holding a large bowl with a huge ladle. And you're encouraged to serve yourself. And then they provide the stretcher to get you out of the restaurant later. But I'm telling you, well worth it. Okay, here's one from Gail. We're flying to New Orleans on Christmas and returning on New Year's Day. I'm hoping the airlines are better than, what do you think? Well, I think they will be. Remember, the busiest travel days of the year is that Wednesday to Sunday over Thanksgiving, not Christmas, because people stagger their departures and returns. So I think you'll be okay. All right, here we go. Jew is saying greetings from Japan. Ira says, I submitted a refund request on American for a canceled flight that left me stranded for 2 nights. Will I ever see a refund? Let me guess. You submitted a refund request online, didn't you? Well, somebody has to process that, and they have staffing issues. The answer is you will see a refund, because if you don't, I'm assuming you paid with it with a credit card, you can dispute the charge. Either way, you're going to get your money back. And if for any reason you don't, keep good records, and then you know what to do. You email me to peter@petergreenberg.com, and we'll get into it. Have a little patience. You'll get your refund. Camilla's saying hello from Tucson. Okay. Josh is saying hi from the 818 in Los Angeles. I know the 818 very well. Okay, Jenny's saying greetings from the Bay Area. Going to St. Martin Island on Saturday, staying on the French side. Any suggestions for a must-see or to be careful of? Well, I love St. Martin, but you got to be careful about 2 things. I'll give you the same advice as I would for St. Thomas. Don't go into town any day that the cruise ships are in. It will be a madhouse. I say that for St. Thomas. I say it for St. Martin and a few other places. And it's easy to find out what day the cruise ships are there. Just call any of the duty-free shops at the airport or any of the duty-free shops at the port, and then you know exactly what day they're coming in. They depend on that. If you want to be a real tourist, go over to the end of the runway in St. Martin. If you keep going around the other side of the runway, there's a bar. Everybody knows it. Go sit at the bar and watch planes clear the runway at about 14 feet. It's one of the wildest approaches you'll ever see. In the days when airlines flew the 747 and they knew they had at least 1 or 2 a day, one coming in from Air France, one coming in from KLM, and in the old days, one even coming in from Pan Am, people would go line the wall of the runway with their signs that explicitly say, don't stand here, you're going to get blown away. And they stood there anyway because they couldn't believe the plane was flying that low over them, and they were blown away both figuratively and literally. In fact, in one case, a woman even died. But you're sitting at the bar, you'll be okay. Have a drink, watch it. It's great theater. Here we go. Okay, greetings from Ashland, Virginia. Hello, Paul. Peter, greetings from Madison, Wisconsin, which is always beautiful, but even more so in the summer. I like Madison, Wisconsin, even in February. I'm a diehard Madisonian lover, but you're right about Madison in the summer. What a great place to be. Okay. Philemon, nice to see you. Emmanuel again. Evelyn says American has capped the flights to Amsterdam. Of course they have. They can't sell any more tickets, so why would you fly empty planes? Okay. Paul says, would I advise shipping clothing to Europe via UPS and just rely on carry-on? I booked round trip to Berlin on Norse. Any concerns I should have? Well, first of all, as many of you know, I believe there are only 2 kinds of airline bags, carry-on and lost. However, On domestic flights, I FedEx my bags. With the exception of weekends, I haven't checked bags on planes in about 9 years. And if you do it right, for about $25 more than the airlines want to charge you for losing your bags, you save 2.5 hours of your life every time you travel. And when you get to where you're going, guess where your bag is? It's either in your hotel room or it's in your house. However, I do not FedEx any of my bags overseas. It's exorbitantly expensive. You're dealing with customs and protocols and forms, not worth it. So the answer to your question is please don't. If you're going to check it in, when you say round trip to Berlin, you haven't told me where you're flying from, and you haven't told me whether it's a connecting flight. That's the key to checking bags. If you don't give yourself at least a 3-hour connect time, your bags aren't going to make it. All right? Nonstop, preferable, of course. All right. Hello from Garden Grove. Hello, Jeanette. What is going on with Air Canada? I heard there are issues at Toronto Airport. News bulletin, there are issues at every airport. I used to get through the US-Canada number and wasn't able to get through until midnight. And then the whole time was more than 3 hours. In the morning, I decided to call the Mexico number and got through in 1 minute. Yes, indeed. Guys, it's a secret I've been using for a long time. If you can't get through to a US 800 number, there are numbers that are published overseas for that same airline, as long as it's global, with their call centers, and they have no staffing issues like we have here. You did the right thing, Jeanette. Okay. Here we go. Lorraine wants to know, do I know anything about Southwest plans to increase overbooking than splitting flights by shuttling non-takers into similar commuter equipment to the destination? I know nothing about that. Keep in mind, there's no such thing as commuter equipment. Southwest Airlines only flies one type of equipment. It's a 737. So I'll check into that, but I haven't heard that. Okay, Christopher says, greetings from Miami. Daryl says, is Google Flight open flight search option actually a good deal or real? No, it's not a bad deal. You got to give yourself time because, look, it allows you to be a comparison shopper. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to buy it with them, okay? Debbie's saying hello from Boynton Beach. Some more Tanzania friends. Hold on, I'm going to scroll up here. I lost a few people here. Hold on a second. You're all coming at the same time. A lot of you here. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, Debbie says NCL, Norwegian Cruise Line, says no COVID test at certain port countries that don't require it. What do I think? Well, it's based on the port countries. Remember, different requirements in different ports as to what ships they'll accept and what condition those ships have to be in before they accept them. So if you have a ship where the passengers, the crew, and the officers have already been tested and they have proof of vaccination, guess what? You got to get in. Okay. What's the one trivia question. Here we go. What's the connection between the #1 airport in Chicago and organized crime? One person guessed tunnels. No, not correct. Okay. We'll keep going. Mark Wexler is saying hello from Portland. No one has an idea what Mark Wexler is doing in Portland. In fact, come to think of it, no one has any idea what Mark Wexler is doing anywhere. By the way, speaking of St. Martin, Mark Wexler happens to be an amazing photographer, by the way. And one of the all-time great photos that he took, speaking of the airport in St. Martin, is he went out to the airport. He knew exactly what time the flight was coming in. He positioned himself with a remote camera and a hidden cable, and he got the best shot ever of that plane landing on top of him. And Mark, if you'll send me that photograph, I'll post it for next week so people can see it. It's well worth the wait. But I still have no idea what you're doing in Portland. All right, let's keep going here. No more guesses here on the organized crime and Chicago's #1 airport. Okay. Drama Girl's asking, what can I expect for airline travel to and from Europe in August and September? Also considering airport traffic, should we get to the airport more than 3 hours ahead of the flight? The answer to the second part of the question is yes. The answer to your first part of the question in August is going to be tough. September is the magic month. It's going to go down after the 8th of September. Okay, Danielle's asking me a question on the new parallel reality being done and tested at Detroit Metro. You know what, Danielle? Let me check it out. I'll get back to you next week on that. Anthony, please follow up, and I will give you my thoughts on that. Okay, here we go. Hello from Mombasa in Kenya. By the way, if you've not done it and you've ever been into Kenya and Nairobi, take the Nairobi to Mombasa train. It won't go very fast, but I'm telling you, it's pretty colorful. It's the old Uganda Railways. Okay. Drew says, I'll be traveling to Salt Lake in September, taking Qatar, hoping there won't be delays or cancellations then. Any advice? Well, if you're flying from Japan, which I think is where you are, on Qatar, that's a whole long way to get to Salt Lake. That means you're flying through Doha. Tell me, or you're flying maybe to Seattle, but still you're going to fly from, you got to get out of Doha, you got to get out of Japan first. Let me know more. Okay. Okay. Catherine saying hello from San Diego. Coleman is saying, Tanzania, and that they enjoyed the Royal Tour, which, by the way, is still being aired on your local public television station. And if you can't find it there, Royal Tour of Tanzania is on Apple TV Plus and Amazon Prime. Okay. Hello from North Carolina. Hello, Margaret. Okay. Bill says the Chicago connection to organized crime in the airport, both located in Cicero. I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce of Cicero is appreciating that, but it's not the correct answer. Okay, here's one. Tracy says, we've been after United to compensate us after a 24-hour cancellation delay in Amsterdam last month. They won't even respond to emails. Okay. Did you speak to anybody? Did you buy your ticket online? Did you buy it through a travel agent? Give me some more information. Okay. Still nobody's getting the answer yet. All right. The speakeasy secret passages at the airport? No. Okay. I'm looking here. Joseph's tuning in from Nairobi. All right. You'll love that. By the way, I have a sign on my front door. You'll appreciate this, Joseph. It's in Swahili. You know what it says? Mubwakali. And nobody knows what it means except if they're speaking Swahili. So, Joseph, you can tell me what it means. Mubwakali. Here we go. Deborah says, I love chocolate mousse and want to go there. You'll love it. That's we're talking about Pop Sorta in Lisbon. Okay. Okay. Hello from the Mile High City, Denver. Sorry I missed you on the travel show. That's okay. I'm coming back next year. All right. Mark Wexler still saying greetings from Portland. Mark, get a life. But send me that picture. All right. Where are we going here? We're going to scroll back up. A lot more people coming. And nobody is getting the answer yet. Okay. Josh says, can I talk about Las Vegas and the downturn in casino revenue? What do you think about the rest of the year? Well, quite frankly, Josh, Las Vegas is booming right now. Would you believe their airport just made it to the top 10 busiest airports in the world? No, their revenue is back. Their casinos are back. They're not yet at 2019 levels, but they're so much better than they were last year. Okay. Here we go. Catherine wants to know if the cruise lines will end pre-cruise COVID tests to board anytime soon. The pre-cruise COVID tests are more a reflection of port rules than cruise line rules. Now, the cruise lines do want you to show proof of vaccination, but in many ports, they want to get you tested before you get on the ship. Okay. Carrie, hello from Minnesota. Okay. Roseanne says, just got back from Italy and it was perfect. Did celebrity reflection from Civitavecchia, the port city of Rome, of course, and not a hump in the road. We had some cases of COVID on board and Captain was very upfront about it, but everything was fine. Okay, thanks for that report. All right, we're going here. Richard says, I will be in Ramstein, Germany this month and want to go to Paris. Is it cheaper to purchase train tickets to Paris in person or buy them online? Well, assuming you're writing this from the United States, why not get yourself a Eurail pass and then travel all over Europe? You got to buy the Eurail pass in conjunction with your round trip European ticket in the US before you leave. They sell them in different increments of a week, 2 weeks, a month, sometimes even 60 days. Right now, trains are the way to go. Okay. Mary Bliss says, Jimmy Hoffa. No, not the connection in Chicago with the #1 airport. I'll give you guys a hint. Let's see how I can do this. All right, I'll give you a hint. The connection actually has to do with Al Capone. I'll give you some more time. All right, Al Capone and the #1 airport in Chicago. Moving along. Daryl says the airport was built in an abandoned dump owned by the mafia. Incorrect, although sometimes people might describe the airport as an abandoned dump. Okay. Jeanette says that the airport was funded by organized crime. No, not true. All right. Mr. Michael Glantz, of all people, has guessed it correctly. So let me tell you the story. The connection between organized crime and O'Hare Airport goes back to Al Capone and his attorney. His attorney was named Easy Eddie. Okay? Easy Eddie got Al Capone out of all sorts of jams. He had a son who he never wanted to grow up to be like him. And in fact, Easy Eddie met a terrible fate. He was gunned down later on. But before that, he told his son, please go straight. Well, his son did that and became one of the most decorated World War II fighter pilots. Easy Eddie's son was named Butch O'Hare. And there you have it. All right. For everybody who guessed right, 2 or 3 people, I think, just got it. But congratulations to Michael Glantz, who wins absolutely nothing but my respect. All right. Bruce Siegel is wrong. And a few other people are wrong, but I'm going to scroll back up here. All right. I'll keep going here. Tracy says we bought our own tickets and there were no United people at the airport in Amsterdam. Hello from Traverse City, Michigan. Hey, we love Traverse City. We love the water, by the way. So Tracy, send me an email, peter@petergreenberg.com, with all that ticket information. Let me see what we can do. All right. Let's go to the photo of the week while we got it. Let's scroll that back up. The photo of the week was taken by Ed Danielczyk, and I hope I got the pronunciation right, Ed. Where was this taken? There's a hint. Look behind the flowers. Okay, here it comes. Sicily. That's Mount Etna in the daytime. Of course, nothing more dramatic than being on a ship and watching Mount Etna erupt at night. Ed, nice job there. Sicily, I love. And I love Catania. I love Palermo. I love, I go earlier up too, to hotels like San Tomeo and everywhere else. It's really amazing. Thank you of the photo. We appreciate that. And if you think you've got a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do with it. Send it to us, peter@petergreenberg.com, and we will post it right here. All right, let's keep scrolling down for some questions here. All right. Oh, by the way, one more note about Sicily, and you're going to think I'm crazy. Maybe I'll show you a couple next week. Every time I go to Sicily, whether it's in Catania, Palermo, or further up in the mountains, I always go to the little stores and I buy. They sell them for about 50 cents or 50, sometimes €1 each. And I buy between 50 and 100 of them. You call me a little nuts, but I do. These little baby wooden Pinocchios, little red wooden Pinocchios. And I bring them back and I keep them in my desk drawer. And then anybody who ever lies to me, they get one. And I've been handing out a lot lately. But you can buy them in Sicily. Okay. All right, now you're all weighing in with Butch O'Hare. Fine. Okay, here we go. I'm scrolling back down again. We got a few folks from Ghana checking in. All right. I'm coming back here. No, it's not the lady in red. That was a guess that was wrong. Okay. Here we go. Margarita says, I have a 6-hour layover in Chicago. We don't have access to the airline's lounge. Are there any public lounges that I can pay by the hour? Well, not really. I mean, you can, but right now the population in lounges is so extreme that they're cutting people off. There are lines to get into the lounges, and these are for the members. It's a mess. You know what I would do if I had a 6-hour layover in Chicago? Honestly, I mean, it would be my plan B. Go across the roadway to the Hilton, the airport Hilton right there, and go hang out in their restaurant or in their lobby lounge. You can probably get some free lobby Wi-Fi. But the airport, mess. Okay. I'm looking here. Katrina's saying hello from hot Alabama. All right. Stephen says we're enjoying lasagna from Texarkana, Texas. Well, while you're there, walk across the street to Texarkana, Arkansas. I've done it. Straddle that border. Okay, let's go to some of the questions you've sent in. Was I able to bring the puppy home from Turkey? I answered that. Sadly, no. Cindy says, how much does a hotel room cost in San Diego these days? I can't seem to find one under $400 a night when you include taxes and fees. Well, the answer to the question is, what do you define as San Diego? I mean, if you're looking for a reasonable hotel room in San Diego, you know what? Try Oceanside, right? Try North County, San Diego, right? Just make sure you have some transportation. Hotels right now are getting on average 23% more per room than they got in 2019. They're delivering half the service, and many of them have capped their occupancies at 60%. Not because they can't sell the other 40%, they just don't have the staff to operate. So you're paying a premium and not getting very much. All right. Okay. Brad says, can hotels get back to cleaning rooms every night, or at least state they don't clean rooms every night? Well, a lot of them are stating that, but they've gotten worse. Some hotels are actually charging you $40 to have a housekeeper come to your room. That was part of the original room rate. Guys, we understand the staffing problems. But you know what? If I open up a steak restaurant and I have no meat, should I open the restaurant? If I open up a dry cleaner and I have no chemicals, should I open the store? Well, if you're opening a hotel and you have no housekeepers, you have a choice. Either keep the hotel closed or adjust your rates, right? I mean, look, I understand what everybody's going through. I understand the staffing shortages. I don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to make a profit, especially after 2 devastating years. But we can't have it both ways. Something's got to adjust. All right. Here's one from Elise. What's a dish I should have in Tuscany that is a hidden gem that usually only locals get? Well, I'll give you one, and you can get it 2 ways. It's a pasta dish, and it's in Tuscany, but it's also in. You can also find it in Venice too. It's tagliolini gratinata. That's beautiful cheese pasta with burned cheese on the outside. They torch it like a creme brulee. Sometimes it can come with ham. I get it without, and sometimes you get the black noodles too. Unbelievable. One warning though, it's an extremely rich dish, and after you eat it, whether you like it or not, you'll be napping. Okay, just thought I'd mention that. Here's one from Joan, looking for a train recommendation for this September, preferably across Canada. Well, if you want to do a 2-day trip, you do the Rocky Mountaineer from Banff all the way to Vancouver. But if you're looking for a true across Canada trip, there's only one choice. It's via rail. And you can start all the way east and head all the way west. In fact, all those Fairmont hotels that are in Canada now used to be Canadian rail hotels, right? Canadian Pacific, actually. So the hotel in Montreal was a train hotel. The hotel in Toronto, the hotel in Vancouver, the hotel in Banff. I mean, all great old railroad hotels. And buy a ticket that allows you on-off privileges. That's the way to see Canada. Okay. Here's one from Sophie. Do I have any hotel suggestions for Moab this summer? Okay, 2 words. You ready? Forget it. The national parks are overloaded. You're not going to get a reservation that you'll be able to afford in Moab. That's for Arches and Zion. Your best ability to do that is don't go in the summer. Seriously. Did you see our CBS Sunday Morning piece last week? That should tell you about how bad the national parks are. Most of them now are requiring reservations. Some of them may be closing. They cannot handle the load. So nearby cities with reservations are few and far between and not inexpensive in the least. Okay. Okay, here we go. Do I think the pilot shortage is because pilots found other jobs? That's from Patty. No. The pilot shortage happened because A, they weren't paying them enough at the commuter level. So the pipeline wasn't full to begin with. B, the airlines offered early buyout and retirement packages to their senior pilots to retain as much cash as they could. They thought maybe 4% of the workforce would take it. About 11 to 12% did. And with that money, there's no reason to come back. And if they did come back under current union rules, they'd lose their seniority. They'd be a junior pilot again. Who wants that? So that'll give you an answer to part of the problem. The other part of the problem was predating the pandemic. Where did most airline pilots come from in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? From the military. The military trained either fighter, bomber, cargo pilots, and then they transitioned into the airline pilots flight schools, and here we have it. Today, most military, forget what you see in Top Gun, most military pilots today are gamers. They're operating drones from some cave in Nevada and taking out people in Iran. They're not really flying planes. So there's the problem. They got to adjust the pay scale, and they got to do a robust training course for people who have never flown to begin with, right? From the ground up pilot school. Now you're talking 3 to 4 years before they can actually make a dent, but they got to start sooner rather than later. All right. A couple of housekeeping things. Travel Detective Season 7 still on the air. You can also catch it on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. I mentioned Royal Tour Tanzania on Apple TV Plus 10 and Prime Time, Amazon Prime, and of course PBS. Next week we'll be coming from a different location, and hopefully maybe even a different day. So stay tuned for that. We'll be traveling again. I hope you have a great post 4th of July period. Let's hope this weekend is a little bit better for air travel than it was last weekend. And of course, if you need to reach me for any reason at all, it's peter@petergreenberg.com, or go right to our website with the imaginative name petergreenberg.com. Have a great rest of the week, guys, and a great weekend. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.